This is on page 37 of the PDF file you can download for initiation into Hermetics that's in the description. And this deals with the construction of the magic diary. What you do is you can take a piece of paper, or you do it on your computer, take a text sheet, and at the top write my negative characteristics, and then sit there and think up all the negative traits you have. Jealousy, hatred, anger, resentment, whatever they might be, and list out as many as you can. And you're not going to be able to do it in one sitting. It'll probably take about a week. So get a notebook or maybe a folder and stick it inside there, the paper. And just sit there and list out as many as you can without straining or struggling too much. And then once you reach a point where you can't think of anything else, just put it in the folder and put it aside. And then other characteristics you ever thought about will probably come to you in the days following. Then add them to the sheet for the negative characteristics you have. And it'll probably take about a week. And if you do it eventually, after 7 days or so, you'll feel that you've done all you can do. And you can move on to looking at the positive characteristics. And so now take another sheet of paper, write my positive characteristics, and do the same as with the negative ones. List out either the paper or a text sheet on your computer all the positive characteristics you have. Maybe self-confidence, peace of mind, etc. Whatever are your positive traits. And do the same thing. It'll probably take a week to do them. List them out, as many as you can in the first sitting. And then put that aside in the folder with the negative ones you have, or if it's on your computer, make a folder with a text sheet that says negative characteristics and one that says positive, and put them in the folder. And once again, when you first start doing it, you'll probably come up with a couple you think of off the top of your head for your positive traits. Put it aside, and then in the coming days and week or so, you'll probably come up with other ones added to the sheet for your positive traits. And so they'll probably take you a couple weeks to do the two of them. And once you've reached a point where you feel you're ready to move on, and you've listed all your negative and positive characteristic traits you can think of, now what you want to do is you want to assign one of the elements to each one of them. That being the water, fire, earth, and air. And here he lists out a few things for the fiery elements, such as jealousy, hatred, anger, and gossiping. To the air element, indifference, laziness, etc. And so you can take whatever your characteristics are for either positive, negative, and ascribe the element to it. What I did was I made a pie chart with the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth. And then I would go through each one of my traits and douse out which of the elements it was. And then next to it, I would write what the element was, corresponding to either my negative or positive trait. And so once you get to that point, that won't take you long to do. Once you have all the traits written out, after a couple of weeks, it might take you an hour or so to go through them and assign the corresponding element to them. Now what you would do is sit for a couple of days, or until you feel you're ready to move on, and just kind of look at it and meditate on it. And now take two separate pieces of paper or a new text document. On one document, you want to make 3 columns for, let's say for your negative characteristics, the most negative one you have, then the middle negative one you have, and the least negative. And you want to take the characteristics from your negative sheet and then classify them as far as the most negative trait you have, the one that doesn't bother you so much, like a middle negative trait, and then your least negative trait. And go through all the ones you have and list them there in order along with the element that corresponds to it. And then do the positive ones. The positive ones with 3 columns: your most positive trait, your kind of middle positive trait that you have, and then your least positive trait you have. And in doing this with the elements listed to it, you're going to create, as he says here, 2 so-called soul mirrors or psycho mirrors. Kind of black one with evil qualities and a white one with good and noble character traits. And what you want to do when you're doing this is make sure nobody sees it. You don't want to share this with anybody. I use like a folder, like I said, with a dollar store folder where I had printed paper in each side of the pockets inside it. And I would just, over the course of a couple of weeks, list the character traits and then assign the elements to each one. And then I would just put it aside. And I found when I was done with it, I put it aside, there was actually like a power that was developing from it, from having done it. It was the strangest thing. Like I could feel it, like adding the elements to it and reaching this point, having done the thought exercises up to the second point. I brought everything out in the open. And what he's talking about here is really looking at yourself before you can move on. Because if you don't deal with any of your so-called negative traits or positive ones, if you continue on with this course, and keep going with it, those can come up to haunt you and undermine your progress. So I found that a lot of times on the negative and positive ones, I was repeating myself. And I did it for a couple of weeks. I think it took me 2 weeks to go through this whole exercise of making the magic diary. It might be a little bit more for you, or maybe a little less, depending on the person, how open you are to writing these down and facing yourself, so to speak. So it'll probably take you a couple of weeks. Don't rush it. Like I say, once you sit down and do either the negative or positive ones, you'll probably come up with a couple for each one. Don't push yourself. Just write as many as you can for like the negative when you first started, and then put it aside, and then in the coming days you'll come up with probably more things, and same with the positive. So, and the most important thing is don't share with anybody, kind of put it aside, and then as you go on with the course, you might come up with other things you can add to it later on. So that's pretty much all I have to say on this second part.